Welcome to Legal Lines. My name is Tom O'Shea, the host of this program that is brought to you by the York County Bar Foundation. My guest today is attorney Laura Smith. Welcome, Laura.
Hi, thank you for having me, Tom.
And Laura is the Legal Services and Pro Bono Coordinator for the York County Bar Foundation. Long title.
Yes.
But Laura, the topic today is the Modest Means Panel, or the Modest Means Program that is put together by the Bar Foundation. And I'm going to ask you, what is that program?
It's a good question. It's a program meant to really help people out who make too much money to qualify for legal aid services in the county, but don't make enough to pay full rates for attorneys.
Okay. So in order to get that background, let's talk about the Legal Services Program, as well as part of your job is also what we call lawyer referral.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, lawyer referral is for anybody who might need an attorney regardless of their income level. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And how does that program work?
That program works by calling into the bar. As someone is served with legal papers in York County, they'll have our number on it, which is 854-8755. You call in, explain to staff what kind of legal problem you're having. And then as part of the program, we vet our attorneys who are on the program, take part in the program rather, so that they have malpractice insurance. We have experience panels for the more common types of laws so that you know that your attorney has trial experience if you have a case that involves a trial or whatnot. And we go from there.
So anyone needing an attorney who doesn't know an attorney or have an attorney can call your number and you will refer them to an attorney who's handling the type of case that their legal need
yes,
may be.
The attorneys on our panels have elected and said we want to do whatever type of cases.
All right. So you basically refer them to the attorney, and then you're out of the program basically. They just have a normal attorney-client relationship with their attorney. You just help them find the attorney, and your involvement basically ends?
Yes.
Okay. Now, with respect to legal services, when I think of legal services locally, I think of Mid-Penn Legal Services, which handles all types of civil cases for people of very low income. Am I correct?
Yes.
And how does that program work? I know you're not part of that program, but how does that work?
And that's an important part, what you said, very low income, because a lot of people think that they might qualify for that program, but you have to make, I think, less than 125% of the poverty guidelines. So for a single person, that's only $14,000 a year. And that was one of the things that really geared us to making this Modest Means program.
Okay, so now legal services, Mid-Penn Legal Services, that would be someone who has basically, as you said, a single person around $14,000 a year income or less, and they would qualify for a free attorney.
Yes, if it's a kind of case that Mid-Penn handles.
Okay, I know by knowing people at Mid-Penn, there's such a high need that they have to limit the types of cases they can do.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, they could nowhere near serve everyone who calls their office with a legal issue.
Okay, and they handle only the civil cases. Then there's a similar program for criminal cases for attorneys who work at the public defender's office. And is there a needs test for people to get a free attorney in a criminal case?
Yes, there is as well.
Okay, and that, though, as I understand it, the Constitution gives everyone a right to an attorney for a criminal case, but not everyone a right for an attorney for a civil case.
Exactly, and that's sometimes confusing for people.
Okay, so in the criminal realm, the public defender's office, they have to take every case if the person qualifies income-wise. Whereas in the civil cases, because of the great need, they limit what they can do.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, there's also something known as the Pro Bono program. Can you describe that?
Yes. So the Pro Bono program is a program that's put on by the York County Bar Association and Foundation. And how it works is that basically works as an overflow for Mid-Penn Legal Services. So we would only take we meaning the Bar Association, would only take the same type of cases that Mid-Penn would handle, but sometimes Mid-Penn can't handle a case because they're too busy. Their attorney literally has another hearing at the same time. Sometimes they can't handle a case because they have a professional conflict. They may, have represented the other side in the past. So those are the kind of cases we handle through the program.
Okay. And how does the pro bono program work? Does a client who qualifies for the pro bono program, is it the same income criteria as someone who would qualify for Mid-Penn?
Yes, they would contact Mid-Penn, and Mid-Penn would do their income screening and say whether they were eligible. The pro bono program on my side works that I recruit attorneys because all of our attorneys are 100% volunteer. They're not getting paid by the government. They're not subsidized. So by the time the cases get to me, I'm asking the attorneys, would you like to volunteer to help people out?
Okay, so basically most attorneys, not all, but many attorneys, agree to do as a public service free legal work for indigent people.
They do. Our attorneys have an ethical obligation, but I also find they just want to. I mean, not all attorneys practice in areas that have, a high need for public service work like that, so they do have the option of making payments instead, but by and large our attorneys really want to help when they can.
So in the pro bono program, if a person qualifies income-wise for a pro bono attorney, you would match them to a volunteer attorney for their case?
Yes.
And basically that volunteer attorney would handle the case out of his or her office? Mm-hmm. And treat it like a paying,
any other case, exactly.
Mm-hmm. But they're not going to give that client a bill,
no,
or a fee to pay.
No.
And approximately how many lawyers in York agree to do pro bono work?
Based on this year and last year's numbers, we have about 100 who take cases. We have another maybe 25 or 30 who participate in clinics, which is more of a limited service.
Okay. And then many other lawyers just donate money to the program to help fund Mid-Penn because they don't practice in the areas that there's a high need.
Exactly.
So that's the pro bono program. That's how Mid-Penn works. And the income criteria to qualify for Mid-Penn, it's based on the poverty.
It's based on the federal poverty guidelines because a lot of the rules are federal rules. I give the example of $14,000. I think for a family of four, it's closer to like $28,000 or $30,000.
So it's based not just as a flat dollar amount. It's based on the size of the family, or the number of people in the household.
Right. They ask questions. They ask a few questions about what assets the family owns as well. So
if it's $14,000 for a single person, if there's a family of four, that would be about
a little less than 30.
So someone would qualify if they had a little less than 30,000 total household income. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Financially, yes.
All right. Now, the main topic today is the Modest Means program, and that's for people who may not qualify for the free legal service because their income is a little too high, but clearly isn't high enough to pay what would be a normal attorney's fees.
Exactly. We want to catch those people, that family of four that makes between $30,000 and $50,000 a year.
So what's the income criteria for someone for the Modest Means program?
For the Modest Means program, you have to make at least 126%. So basically, you have to make at least as much as where Mid-Penn leaves off. And then we have a 200% upper limit. So you can't make more than that.
So if we go back to a single person with one person in the household who made $14,000, they would qualify for the Modest Means if their income was $28,000, approximately.
Yes, we on the application we give to the clients, we give out the chart so they can know more exactly. But those off the top of my head, those are numbers I give out as examples.
Okay, and I know that there are forms that the people have to fill out,
and we have discretion. I mean, we will consider people's expenses if they have an extraordinary medical expense or something of that nature. So I always give the numbers out as guidelines.
Now, with Mid-Penn, the income criteria is, I believe, federally mandated. Mm-hmm. Okay. With the Modest Means program, there's more discretion because there's no federal program.
No, it's completely sponsored by the York County Bar Association.
Okay. Is this something that exists in other counties as well?
It does. It exists different counties across the country. different states. Some states do it at a state level, but yes.
Okay, and it's just taking foot in York County. And I think there was something you wanted to point out before I forget, and that is that right now the intake is limited. Am I correct?
It is. We're still in the pilot stages of the program. It's set to be fully operational at the beginning of next year.
And by January of 2016?
Yes.
Okay, so right now is it limited to the field of law?
It is limited. We're limiting it to family law and criminal law.
So that would be like a divorce case, a custody case, some type of
Support.
Criminal case.
Yes.
Where they don't qualify for the public defender, but their income is such that they may not afford an attorney at a normal...
A private attorney, yeah.
private attorney at a billing rate. So, and you would then... So if somebody wanted to apply for the program, how do they go about doing that?
They would call our office. I can either email them or they can stop by and get a paper application. They're going to need certain documentations, some pay stubs, last year's income tax returns, and then there's a simple questionnaire, maybe a 1 to 2 page, on the questions about their income, whether they think their income is going to change. They can state, if they think they might lose a job in 3 months or something, any financial information that would be relevant to the application.
Okay, so who screens the application then? Is that your job?
That's my job.
Okay, so you go through the application. Now, you just said that a person would call in and we give them the forms to complete, etc. I want to point out, don't call in until after January 1st of 2016. But you are handling cases now. So how are you handling cases now if people cannot call in yet?
Exactly. We've since the program's new, it was started in July of this year, we started to slowly roll it out. So we're rolling it out with our partners, Mid-Penn Legal Services. Also, the Self-Help Center at the courthouse is referring people to our number, and that's how we're slowly implementing.
How about the Public Defender's Office?
Yes, the Public Defender's Office as well.
So right now, if somebody goes to Mid-Penn Legal Services and they fill out the income criteria, and Mid-Penn says, I'm sorry, we can't help you, but you would qualify for the limited means program, or the modest means program, I should say. Some counties, they call it limited means, so I might say that by mistake. Mid-Penn would refer to you, and you will take it now.
Exactly. Okay. More likely, Mid-Penn say you may qualify because they're not doing the screening there.
Okay.
So they call my number directly, and that's because right now it's me doing the application, so we're slowly rolling it out to make sure we don't overwhelm either me or our panel of attorneys, which is about 20 attorneys. Okay.
And then the same thing with the criminal cases. The Public Defender's Office might say, we had somebody who was charged with a crime. They don't qualify income-wise for us, but maybe they would qualify for the Modest Means program.
Yes.
So you will take those cases now. You also mentioned the Self-Help Center, and I want to put in a plug for the Self-Help Center here. What is that?
Self-Help Center is on the 4th floor of the courthouse. It's a county center, and basically they don't have lawyers working there, so you can't get legal advice, but they have some forms, with instructions of how you can help yourself out with a legal issue.
All right. So it's on the 4th floor of the Judicial Center in downtown York, and they keep forms for various types of cases where people can act as their own attorney.
Yes.
Okay. You just told me before the show began what volume we get at the Self-Help Center and how many people have used it so far.
I just got a report from the director today that there's been almost 4,000 in 2015 so far.
Okay, and right now we're in the middle of November, so it's going to be well over 4,000 for 1 year.
Yes.
Okay. But sometimes the director of that program might realize that an attorney is needed and refer that to the Modest Means program, and you'll take that case now. And before we go any further, we're going to take a break, and we'll be back in a moment. Welcome back to Legal Lines. My guest is Laura Smith, the Legal Services and Pro Bono Coordinator for the York County Bar Foundation, And our topic is the Modest Means program that is put on by the Bar Foundation. And welcome back, Laura. And I know before the break we were talking about how the Modest Means program works, that people who have incomes that is high enough that they do not qualify for free legal services can, but do not have much income much higher than that, they can qualify for this program for reduced legal fees. Okay, and we talked about how people can apply. Right now it's limited to the areas of family law and criminal law. It's also limited to cases that are referred to you by various programs right now, but starting January of 2016, anybody who feels that their income is in these categories can make a direct application by contacting the York County Bar Center.
Yes.
That summarizes where we're at.
Very well.
Okay, now, we're at the point someone has applied. They're either referred to you or after January, they qualify for the services. You went through their income criteria, they qualify for the service. Who do they go to as an attorney?
What happens? Yeah, the other thing I do want to point out before we get there, one other thing to mention is that time is always sensitive for our attorneys. So when you do have a legal problem, if you're calling in, we tell people that we need their application a week before any court hearing or proceeding.
Oh, good point. You're not going to get an attorney 5 minutes before the trial begins.
No.
Okay, so if you need an attorney and you haven't noticed that you have some type of court hearing, they never schedule court hearings that quickly that you wouldn't. I shouldn't say never. There are certain exceptions. But for the most part, if there's a regular lawsuit, there's going to be at least 20 days before you have to do something.
Exactly.
Don't wait till the 20th day.
Don't wait.
All right. Contact right after you get the paperwork that you have something in court. Contact your office if you qualify for the limited means or think you can qualify.
And we understand it's overwhelming for people especially the first time they're facing a court situation. But we can help you better if the more time we have.
Right. Okay. So somebody contacts your office.
I get that application. I have my week's worth of time. What will happen is we will set them up with someone who is on our panel, which means there's attorneys who have agreed to be on our panel and charge a certain rate.
All right. Now, the attorneys who've agreed to do this, they have regular private practices in York County?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And they're members of the York County Bar?
Members of the York County Bar, and they've elected to take cases in family law and criminal law. Those are their areas.
Okay, and they've agreed to reduce their fees?
Yes.
Now, for somebody who qualifies for this service, what type of fee are they looking at?
They're looking at $100 an hour if they do an hourly rate, which is typically about a 50% reduction than a typical private rate.
I know that $100 an hour sounds very, very high to many people, okay? Mm-hmm. I also know that most lawyers are charging probably double that, okay? And I also know that when a lawyer charges $200 an hour, that doesn't mean that they are making $200 an hour because that money goes into the office and pays the rent and pays the overhead and pays the staff and everything else, okay? So an attorney who agrees to take cases in this program is charging roughly half of what that attorney would normally be charging a client.
Exactly.
And that rate is flat across the board, $100 an hour?
It is. I mean, some attorneys will do, especially in the criminal law arena, will do a flat rate. So those attorneys have agreed to charge 60% of their normal rate.
Okay, so and I don't know what a flat rate would be for a certain type of case, but I know that, for example, some attorneys will say if I'm doing a DUI case, I charge X amount of dollars.
Right, if it's for ARD.
Every other client, that X amount of dollars, this would be 60% less.
Yes.
Okay? And they agree, so it's
Well, it would be 60% of, it would be 40% less.
I'm sorry, you're correct. I should do my math better. But that's how it would work, that they'd get a 40%
discount.
reduction. Mm-hmm. Okay? But that would be based on that attorney's regular flat rate.
Yes.
And some attorneys might have different flat rates, so there'd still be a little
there's still, yes.
shopping around if you would. Mm-hmm. Okay? But you will link the attorney to the client, and they will need to contact each other.
Yeah. The first thing that will happen is a 30-minute consultation.
Now, is there a fee to apply for this?
There is. There's a $25 application fee. It covers the 30-minute consultation. We can't guarantee that the attorney will take the case. I mean, the attorneys have discretion, to sort of vet your case, tell you if you have a legal claim, got to say that. And the other thing I want to say about the fees too is that, even though some attorneys will differ, the attorneys who've joined this program want to do it because they want to help people. They want to help people who are helping themselves by working and making some money. So,
So in the first half of this program, and people might not realize that attorneys really do want to help people.
Yeah.
But in the first half of this program, we did talk about that well over 100 lawyers in York agreed to take cases pro bono. In other words, not charging anything for certain clients who have very little income. Mm-hmm. So this is just an extension of that for attorneys who are saying, okay, this client doesn't qualify for free legal service, but I realize that this client doesn't make the type of money to pay my normal hourly rate, so I will agree as a service to the public to charge much less.
Exactly.
And you have right now 20 attorneys who are handling family law cases, and how many who have agreed?
About 10 to 15.
Who have agreed to do the reduced rate for the criminal cases. Mm-hmm. Okay, and as we said in the first half of this program, right now, because this program is new to York County, those are the two areas that you're serving.
Yes.
You plan to expand that, correct?
We hope to. Yeah, we'd like to do it in all areas, but we have certain areas that are higher need, more pressing issues for people, possibly landlord and tenant and housing issues, consumer debt, bankruptcy issues will probably be our next areas. Okay,
so in a few months or maybe a year or so, you'll start taking other cases outside of the family law, and those, it seems like landlord-tenant, bankruptcy would be the next areas where you see this.
They're the highest need and the most crucial needs. People losing their housing, having debt they can't get out of, versus something like estates where time isn't of the essence.
Okay. All right. So a person pays the $25 fee to your office. That covers you doing the paperwork. Mm-hmm. It also covers the initial consultation that the attorney will meet with somebody for a half hour to find out what the case is about. Mm-hmm. Now, I believe, if I'm correct, the attorney never sees any of that $25.
No.
So the attorney's really doing that half-hour consultation for free.
Exactly, yes.
And they're giving the client advice as to whether or not they can help them with the case, whether or not they have a good case, bad case, try to settle the case.
Exactly. I mean, sometimes you think you have a legal problem and, you're an attorney, so it's best not to do anything. In that case, the attorney would tell the person that and, say it's not in your best interest to go past this consultation.
So basically, the attorney is going to give the same advice that the attorney would give any other client, and this would be at the attorney's private office, not at any government center or anything like that. And then if the attorney agrees to take the case and the client agrees to retain the attorney, they'll enter into a fee agreement that will be based upon the rate structure you just stated.
Exactly.
Okay? And from that moment on, that client is treated like any other client. Mm-hmm. They're paying a different fee than other clients who have higher income, but they will be treated as any other client, and the case goes forward. And is your office not involved anymore? Our
office isn't involved. We are always there to answer questions if people thought they had an issue with the attorneys, but we don't get involved in the minutia of the actual case.
Now, one of the other things you told me is that there is a way for somebody to co-sign for someone to qualify for the program. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't quite understand that, so I'm letting you explain it now.
Yeah, the best way I can remember, I remember being in college and I wanted to rent an apartment. Of course, I had no income, so your parents co-sign and they pay for it. It's really like that kind of relationship. And the reason we did that was because Mid-Penn and the legal services field can't handle all the case type volumes, there will be people who make less than 126% our starting point, who would like to hire an attorney and maybe have means, maybe have a parent, family member, a friend, someone who may help them out if they knew more what they were getting involved in versus, they wouldn't with a private attorney and a fee. So that's why we have that option open.
So somebody who, like a student would be a good example, who needs an attorney, mm-hmm. and they would not have the
They make
income
no
they
income
make
or
no
very
income.
little.
Okay.
Yes.
So, but they won't qualify for mid-pen or for free legal service.
They would qualify financially, but they wouldn't take their
They
type
won't
case.
take
It's
their
not a high
type.
priority case. Yes.
Okay.
Then our program would kick in.
Okay.
If they had someone who was willing to either pay for it or say, in your limited income, if you're making some income, I'll back you up and pay if you can't pay.
Okay. So, right. And when we talked about people who would qualify income-wise for mid-pen or free legal service, mid-pen limits the type of cases it can handle because of the volume.
Exactly.
And my understanding is that they would, for example, only handle custody cases if they see there to be an immediate problem.
Right. And they work very hard. Everyone who has a case, you're involved in that case, so you of course think that your case is highest priority because it is in your life. But MidPen has worked very hard to come up with a good structure to be fair to everyone, that say these are the kind of cases that really need our attention right now.
Right. So if I go back to the custody situation, somebody who says, well, gee, I see my children every other weekend, and the other parent agrees and I agree, but I'd still like to have a court order to make it in writing for the long term. MidPen isn't necessarily going to take that case and say, we will represent you in this.
Exactly.
Because there'd be cases where people are snatching the children or not seeing the children or
Threatening to move out of state.
right.
Exactly.
Those are the cases that they would see where there'd be a need for immediate attention. But on the other hand, somebody who doesn't get an attorney through MidPen could still go to the limited means office, have their parent co-sign for them or have somebody co-sign for them, and gets an attorney at the reduced rate, and the co-signer is then responsible for the fee.
Yes.
Okay, so that would be a good program for many people to know is available. In general, I know attorneys' fees are high, okay, but there are ways that clients can assist in keeping the fees lower. And in the 2 minutes we have left, can you give some
Sure. Yeah, I would say the most important thing, because every attorney is a little different, they're going to bill a little different, but the first thing you want to be honest with the attorney. Say you're concerned about fees, ask that particular attorney what you can do. I mean, you can always do some of the legwork on your own if documents need to be found or searched for, do that yourself rather than have the attorney. But the most important thing is to communicate and ask that attorney, would you rather me email you? Would you rather us set up a 30-minute session to talk? I'll answer all my questions at one time, but definitely be upfront with the attorney and ask them. I think a lot of attorneys would like that and would help you.
Yeah, so one of the things that you said is gather your own information. If you are going into something where your income is relevant, when you show up the first time, bring the tax return, bring your pay stubs, so that you don't have to go back a second time and say, now I got this.
Right, and be charged again.
Right,
Yes.
and so if you're diligent, it might keep the fees lower.
Right.
And before we can go into any other hints on how to keep your fees lower, I'm sorry, we
could do a whole show.
We're running out of time, but thank you, Laura. Our program today was about the Modest Means program. This is Legal Lines. My name is Tom O'Shea. Okay.